All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This is our bar workouts. Setup, you guys know, it's a chair, yoga mats, and hand weights if you want, but it's not required. I don't have actual hand weights at home either. I am going to be using beans. Okay, so this class is 45 minutes. I'm going to go the full 45 minutes, but if you need to leave early, feel free to do that. Okay? So, by the way, you can play whatever music you want. Mostly people for bar will play something with a tempo. And I have music on really quietly here so that I can sort of follow a rhythm. But the thing about bar is it's not so much about the rhythm, it's about technique. So feel free to go at your own pace at any points. All right, we're going to start in first position. Heels together, toes out, abdominals nice and tight, chest lifted. All right, up and over. We're going to start with the side bend. Think about lifting up and over, reaching high to the ceiling before you side bend. You're feeling the oblique stretch, lateral flexion of the spine. You're also getting range of motion in those shoulders. Keep the arm up and then pull down with a knee lift. Waking up those hip flexors and the outside leg. Anytime we move a leg, it's going to be the outside leg. So I like to put these videos on YouTube, and if I have music, sometimes there's these copyright issues, which is why it's better to just like not use music. Let's keep our arms still to the side and just extend the leg out. Nice straight leg. Quads nice and tight. Keep those knees straight. With the soft bend in your elbow. Careful we're not elevating those shoulders. Few more. We're just warming up here. 4 more. 4. Got a little plie. If your arm's tired, you can keep your hands down. But if you'd like to keep it up, feel free. Little knee bend. You want to keep that chest up though. My knees are not shooting past my toes, but they are going in line with my toes to the corners of the room. Okay, we're going up on the toes. Again, if you want to involve the arms, you can. Feel free to keep those arms down. Our chair here is for balance, so we're never yanking on it. It's not bolted to the ground or to the wall. So we're just lightly putting our hands on there to help us with balance. Warming up the calves. Let's do 4 more. And now I'm going to take the chair to the other side, but if you'd like, you can turn around. It really depends on your setup and how you have your device placed. It's easier for me to just move my chair. Obviously, in a real studio at a bar, we'd have to turn completely around. So we're doing side bends on this second side. So what we did on the first side, we're going to do on the second side now. You really want to feel that lengthening. Keeping both heels anchored to the ground. keep our arm up for this one and do that knee pull. Whether or not you want to point the toes or flex is your choice. I'm just kind of keeping my foot in neutral right now. I'm trying to keep my chest tall. I'm trying not to sort of drop into that knee lift. Looking good. Hold the arm still, extend the leg to the corner of the room. You can have your arms out here, it really doesn't matter. You can also place it on your hips. 8 more. 4, 3, 2. We're going to put our feet in second position. It's a little wider. And into another plie. So no matter what, no matter how far apart your feet are, your knees and toes will always be turned out. Well, actually, it doesn't matter how far apart your feet are, but generally going to be turned out because this is ballet inspired. And you don't want those knees shooting past the toes. You probably don't need your chair right now. You want to remind yourself to keep your abs nice and braced, even though we're not directly working your abs right now. Up onto the heels. Feels a little different when your heels are together versus apart when you come onto your toes. Oh, and again, if you want to keep that outside arm engaged, you always have the choice of keeping it up there. Give me 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, let's go ahead and start into the meat of the workout. So we start with lower body, then we'll move into some upper body, and then do a little bit of abs and stretch at the end. So if you want to face, so this is considered the outside leg. So when I just turn and face my chair, I'm still going to be using this leg. We're going to go into a nice, what would I call a fitness lunge? It is a standard lunge. Nice long stride. So when you bend both knees at the bottom where the knee is at ankle height, knees should be about 90 degrees. So if your feet are too close, you're not going to get that 90 degrees. And if your feet are too far, you're not going to get that 90. So down and up. You probably don't really need your chair right now, but we are going to be going into lifting the back leg. So let's just first get this setup going. And now when you stand up, you're almost going to push off that back leg to extend into an arabesque. So feel free to adjust as needed from the chair because you will lean forward a little bit. You don't want to like have that chair back go right into your abs. Now take your time with this. Don't worry again about any beats that you have to follow. Technique is more important. We're coming down, working the glutes, squeezing the glute of the extended leg. The glute of the front leg is also doing a lot of work because you're bending and straightening out of it. Now try not to turn your body. We're trying to keep the hips squared to the chair as much as we can. I know we've done a lot already. But we're going to add some pulsing. So we're going to pulse down for 4, 3, 2, 1, and 4, 3, 2, 1. Looking good. Pulsing is decreasing the range of motion. becomes very small, but it's at the peak of the contraction. So either the lowest point or the highest point. And that's where the work is. You're keeping the muscles loaded for a longer period of time. So it reaches that fatigue. Let's cut it in half to 2, 2, and 2. So this class is called Barre Fitness because it's not entirely ballet oriented. But the principles of ballet are here. Principles of Pilates. Alignment, balance, symmetry. Last one. Good. All right. I'm gonna move my chair. I mean, I generally don't have to. I can just use the other leg, but I'm just gonna move my chair. And we're gonna step back with the other leg. It's the front leg that was feeling a lot more work than the lifting leg. So now that we switch sides, the fatigue should feel different. So the leg that was in the front is now in the back, hopefully. Otherwise, you'd be probably in a lot of pain right now. It's okay if you're a little far from your chair because when we eventually go into that arabesque leg lift, you are going to lean forward a little bit. Lean forward doesn't necessarily mean your chest has dropped. It's still a nice lifted chest with just a forward tilt. All right, let's have that lift if you're ready. Let's do 8 more. Those are lunge and arabesque. Really squeeze that leg straight and squeeze the butt and abs as you lift it. Good, last one, and now we're going to do the 4 pulses. So it's 4, 3, 2, 1, and 4. Good, try to keep those hips square to that chair or square to the floor. So we're not turned out. Working on the butt. Let's cut in half. Keep going. 1 more. That's 1. All right. Shake out those legs. We're going to be lifting the outside leg. No more lunges, but the standing leg is going to do work. So if you want to switch the chair over again, you can. So our standing leg is often the leg that's taking our full support, so there's a lot of work stabilizing. And then our moving leg is getting sort of that range of motion in the hips. You want to have your feet turned out a little bit, just like we were doing first position. We're going to have a slight bend in the standing leg, but also a slight bend in the outside moving leg. Going to go forward, circle back, and end behind us. So let me just show you from the side, which you don't want to do this with, you might kick your chair. So you actually want to try to keep a turnout. So my knees turned out. It does turn in here, but there's always a slight bend at an angle, if that makes sense. Good, and then we'll finish by bringing the toes to our knees. Sweep it forward again. And you can pick how high you want this leg. So if you want to bring the toe to the ankle, you can. And if you want to sweep the leg, get in range of motion in the hips with your foot closer to the floor, that's totally fine. You can do what you'd like with your arms that help with your balance. But we do have that chair for you. The challenge is for you to lift your leg as high as you can, challenging position, but doable position, without straining any hip joints or muscles. When you lift forward, it's always going to go down a little bit as you move to the back. So try to lift a little more when you get to that final point in the back. That extra little lift. Lift, sweep, and lift again. Good. And because our leg is turned out, you should feel your butt, but you should feel a different part of your butt. So we have our glute maximus, which is what we work during the arabesques that were straight behind us. And then when we're turned out, we're working glute medius and minimus. Just different aspects of our butt. Focus on technique. Don't worry about speed, about maintaining any pace with the music. If you'd like to add a little bonus lift, what you can do is as your foot comes to your knees, you do a heel raise. If you want. We'll do 8 of those, and then we'll switch sides. There's 1. Lift again. Oh, I just kicked my wall. 2. This is a tough calf raise because you're only on 1 foot, and that calf is lifting your whole body. Three more. And last 2. Okay. Changing my chair again. You guys good? Okay. So let's set up that first position again. So think about lifting forward, turn out, sweeping it. Another lift in the back. See my knees turned out. This is a normal arabesque. That's what it would look like. This is my turnout. And then straight to the knee. Yeah, it's tempting to not squeeze our abs or forget to squeeze our abs. But right here, especially when your leg goes back, that's where it's important to engage your abdominals. Because if you try to lift your leg too high without abdominal support, you could really get into the lower back. So you want support on the front and back of your body at all times. Remember that standing leg? It's slightly bent. Probably, I even forget sometimes when I lock it out. Our default is to lock out the standing leg. It's easier. No muscle recruitment when we settle into the joints. All right, let's do one more without the heel lift. I'm actually going to move forward a little bit, kicking the wall. And then we're going to add this heel lift right here. Just try to keep that chest up. Balance is not just about relying on the chair, it's also about your visual gaze. You don't need to keep looking at me if movement distracts you. You can look at a dot maybe 5 feet ahead of you on the floor. Or maybe a spot on the wall. Spotting is a ballet term, right? They do these pirouettes and spins, and they always are looking at a spot on the wall. I think we have 2 more. You guys know I'm terrible with counting. Last one. Good. All right, so we're gonna shake out our legs and we're gonna go into the upper body. So you can get rid of your chair if you want. Now with the arm portion, I don't have dumbbells, but I have these cans of beans that are about 15.5 ounces, 16 ounces is a pound, so these are pretty much a pound. You don't need weights, because if you get the range of motion and the pulsing correctly, using gravity, you'll feel plenty of muscles. But if you do have dumbbells, I would not recommend anything over 3 pounds. So we're going to start with shoulders. So here we're going to stand in our neutral position. Knees slightly bent, soft knees, abs tight, chest up. Good. I like to start with something symmetrical, which is your side raise. My elbows are slightly bent, again, not locked, and I'm just lifting until shoulder height. If you have any shoulder injuries and don't feel comfortable taking the weight over your head, there's always this exercise right here, where you can go to the front. But I am going to be taking exercises over the head. Four, 3. On this last one, hold it up at the T, make little circles. Here's pulsing, but sometimes we can disguise pulsing as in we're drawing little circles. And then it's more fun than pulsing. I'm holding cans of beans, I know, but basically my thumbs are forward. Good, now I'm going to have you turn your thumbs back and circle back. So you're going up and back. I mean, it doesn't really matter which way you circle, but it generally feels better and more sort of thoughtless to circle toward your thumbs. But if you think about it, it's always toward your thumbs, whether you go up first or down first. So whether or not you have something in your hands, you're going to feel this exercise. The weight of your arms, holding it up against gravity, that's work. Four, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, keep your elbows down for a moment. Give your shoulders a little break. We'll take it up and overhead and just a little bit. These are your biceps. Our biceps tend to be the strongest compared to triceps and shoulders. I'm just turning my, angling my weights out to the corners of the room a bit. You can, of course, have it straight in front of you. Just variations of biceps. The interesting thing about biceps is whenever we pulse for biceps, we do it at the mid-range. Because the most bent position of a bicep curl is actually not the greatest flexion. It's the greatest flexion in terms of elbow flexion, but in terms of muscle contraction where gravity has its greatest pull, that space is when your forearms are parallel to the ground. Keep going. So it wouldn't really work to pulse here, and wouldn't really work to pulse here. Right here. That's where we're going to pulse. So go ahead and join me. Keep pulling those elbows into the body. So you don't want to try to have your elbows swing back here. You actually want to keep your elbows still in space underneath your shoulders. And that's the pulse. You can make little circles. Know that your elbow joint is a hinge joint. It's not meant to be circular like your hips, but it doesn't mean you can't have a little range of circles, mostly because it's coming from your shoulders. Shoulders have internal and external rotation. So that's actually really where the circling is coming from, not directly from your elbows. This just makes it a little more fun than just doing up and down. You may not feel this depending on how strong your biceps are and the weight you're holding in your hand. Generally the weights, a lighter weight, we can feel it with our shoulders and triceps, and less so with our biceps. It just, again, depends on each person. All right, we're taking it over the head and press. 90 degrees, converge, open, converge. We do have things that are over our head, like things on top of the fridge, on a high shelf. We don't want to lose our ability to reach our arms overhead. Good. Notice I'm not locking my elbows at the top. Oh, you know what? I just remembered that I started 10 minutes late, and so that means I forgot to adjust that on my clock when I watched it. So we did a shorter lower body portion. So I will just do more abs, because I'm pretty sure no one wants to do more upper body. Oh, you know what? We can do more lower body. Get your feet nice and wide. We got this. 3 times hip width apart. And go into our wide plie. You can always figure something out. Good. Elbows and knees bend simultaneously, and they both straighten, but not locked out, simultaneously. Good. Your arms are probably getting fatigued, so do a single arm punch. This actually doesn't necessarily make it easier because the arm that's not moving is still held at shoulder height. It's still working, just in a more isometric fashion. But again, variety helps a little bit. Looking good. Chest up, abs tight, abs nice and braced. And you're still breathing, yes? One more time on each side. All right, let's bring our feet back in. Bring our arms forward. We can start with singles. Elbows soft. Soft knees. So this is one way of doing single arm front raises, or what we call unilateral. One goes up, one goes down before the other one even makes its move. But I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it so that they're both moving simultaneously. So if you start with one high, then just keep switching. Switch, switch. You don't need to slam your thighs with the arms. Try to keep the wrist straight. You're trying not to do something like this if you're holding dumbbells, or even if you're not holding dumbbells. Neutral wrist position. Now let's change the range of motion. This is what I call full range of motion, down to your thighs, up to shoulder height. Let's not take it all the way down to our thighs. Maybe about 2/3 of the way down. Roughly 2/3. And maybe just 50% now. Keep reducing that range. I'm just showing the side view. You can obviously face front. You don't need to turn to the side. All right, I'm reducing the range even more. And with reduced range, you can actually pick up the pace because you don't have to travel a far distance. So you never want to do something like this because this is just out of control. So I've increased the pace only because I've decreased the range of motion. You guys feeling it? Take breaks if you need. I'm going to increase it back up. I'm going to slow it down again. I'm just going to go all the way back until we're back to full range. Feel free to slow it down. Slowly increasing more. And then we're back to the original full range. Feels different, right? Your muscles feel it differently when you change the range of motion. All right, let's do our triceps. We love our triceps. I'm just going to show you the side view again. We're going to sit into sort of a squat position. My torso's tilted, but it's not a dropped chest. My chest is still lifted. I'm going to lift my elbows. Now, just relax your arms, lift your elbows. Notice where your hands naturally hang. Your forearms should be vertical because gravity just pulls your arms straight down. Gravity doesn't pull your arms here. It's here. So this is our start. This is our end. Start, end. I'm moving both arms at the same time. Fully straight. Palms are facing in. That's the peak of the motion. So when we pulse for triceps, we're going to try to keep our arms as straight as we can with just a little bit of bend. Let's pick up the pace a little bit. Again, go at your own pace, of course. I am going a little faster, but you don't want to be moving so fast that it's momentum-based and you don't feel your muscles anymore. We're also trying not to straighten and then swing it all the way forward and then kick it back out. That extra range of motion doesn't help the tricep. Just going to turn a little bit so I'm not constantly looking to the side. Now, one arm at a time. Left, right, doesn't matter which one you go with first. Arm gets a little break when it stays bent. That's the sort of bonus of moving unilaterally. Good. What happens when our triceps start to get tired is our elbows start to fall. So just kind of remind yourself to keep those elbows nice and high. All right, let's do our little pulse. Pulse, pulse. Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We really don't need to do much for the triceps. It's one of our smaller muscle groups in our arms. We're going to go overhead. This feels like a stretch because it is. Elbows in, not out. And then, it's like I'm gonna throw my beans, but I'm not gonna throw my beans. Why would I throw my beans? I like my beans. Also, I don't want it to crash into my mirrors. If I were to pretend I was going to slow motion throw my beans, this would be how I would start to throw them, I guess. So I'm not hitting my shoulders or anything. Your elbows come to roughly 90 degrees, maybe a little less. Now the full range of motion, again I'll come to the side here, is roughly about less than 90 degrees. And then all the way straight. Try not to arch the back, try not to do this. This does take some sort of flexibility, for sure, when your arms are overhead. So I'm going to have you pulse it. So it's a partial straightening. Not a full bend, but not a full straightening. Good. This is what happens when our triceps get tired. We're going to try to keep those elbows in. All right. Let's finish here in 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So you should feel that even if you're not carrying any weight in your hands. We're going to go into some push-ups. If you don't want to do push-ups, you can keep doing some arm work. We're not going to do that many push-ups. I'd say we're going to do 8. But the reason why I like doing push-ups to segue into the abdominals is because a push-up is a plank. And a plank is a really good abdominal exercise. All right, so I'm mat straight. Looks crooked. Can't tell. Okay, so you do have options to do push-ups kneeling. This isn't a plank position, but if it helps you to do push-ups that way so that your elbows bend to 90 degrees, then that's good because you do want to work your chest. A knee push-up, that's kneeling. A knee push-up is you take your knees back, but your chest is still in line with your hands so that when your chest lowers, it goes between your hands. Remember, you want your hands wider than shoulder distance. And now you can do push-ups on your toes. So we're going to do 8 push-ups. Let's do it together. 8. Inhale down, exhale up. 7. Keep breathing. 4 more. Inhale, exhale. 3, 2, and 1. Good. So now let's visit the plank. So if you're on your knees, let's come onto our toes if you can. I encourage you to have your butt a little higher if need be, rather than be on your knees. Simply because you do work your abs a little bit more if legs are straight, the butt is high versus being on your knees. So my shoulders are over the elbows. My butt, my hips are about shoulder height, in line. So I have a straight line from shoulders through hips through ankles. And we're breathing. Let's breathe 3 more breaths together. We've already probably done 2 together. So inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Awesome. So let's get to our ab portion, which is Pilates based. Pilates is focused on core musculature, which is abs, or anything that touches the spine and pelvis. Let's start with our basic crunch. Supporting the neck, we lift head, neck, and shoulder blades. Keep your elbows wide, try not to pull your elbows forward. Whenever you feel your shoulder blades clear the mat, that's as high as you lift. Slow and controlled. I look at my knees, I keep my chin tucked. The best way to protect your neck during abs is to keep your chin tucked. So in Pilates, we're gonna move slowly with control, using our breath. Exhale, inhale. That's kind of the pace of our breath. Out through the mouth, inhale through the nose. If that's the pace, that's kind of how slow or how fast we're gonna move throughout this section. Good, I'm gonna add a knee lift and I'm gonna turn towards it. Now, I can only lift one shoulder blade and do it, but I'm actually gonna try to lift both shoulder blades. So one shoulder blade will lift higher than the other, but I'm still gonna try to lift this shoulder blade. It won't lift as much, but that's how you get the oblique work, is when both shoulder blades come off the ground. Let's do 8, so maybe about 2 more. And switch. Keep your abs nice and tight. Keep your lower back imprinted. The lower back pressed into the mat for support and stability. Last one. Let's give our abs a little break. Work those glutes. This is our hip bridge. Coming to neutral. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. If you ever have any knee pain, but you still want to work your glutes, this is a great way of working them. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart. So working the butt is basically a hip extension. So that's what we're doing right now, hip extending. Pick your favorite leg and lift it. You can keep the knee bent. You can have it straight, your choice. This forces our one remaining leg, glutes, to do extra work. To lift both sides of the hips. Good. Last one. Take your second favorite leg, and we're pushing it up. Whatever you did on the first leg, you can do on the second. Both hips are going up simultaneously and equally. Give me one more. Good. Hug your knees in. We're gonna cycle our legs. I mean, this is probably what normal bicycling looks like, but we're just gonna straighten and bend. All right, I'm gonna introduce this slowly so that there's not a lot of confusion, but basically when one leg is straight, take that opposite arm and straighten it. And then the other arm is gonna reach across the body to grab that bent knee. And then switch. So once you have the first one set up, you can keep alternating. Let's lift the head if you like. Head, neck, and shoulder blades, that is, keeping the chin tucked. I'm still reaching the arms. Nice and straight, away from the opposite straight leg. I'm actually not rotating. It's just arm movements. Abdominals are required to be stable and still while my limbs are moving. So I'm not actively crunching either. I'm just keeping my shoulder blades nice and lifted. We're 8 and 7. And 4, 3, keep breathing, 2, and 1. Good. All right, I'm just gonna turn my body, but you don't have to. This is so you can see my legs. So we're gonna start from here, bend, and reach. This actually is a nice inner thigh stretch, bend, and straighten. So here's neutral. I turn out, reach, and your abs actually are stabilizing, and they would actually, I'm turning my body again, it would stabilize more if you're less vertical. So this is a vertical position, but let's say I'm here on the diagonal. My abs immediately start to work more. Open, reach. I'm still getting that stretch, but a little more abdominal work. Press those hands into the floor because my legs are sort of at an angle away from my head. Make sense? So pick your angle. It can be vertical. Your straddle is however wide you want to go. You don't want to injure yourself, but it's a nice stretch. And again, abs are tight, spine is imprinted. Well, I really can't talk and do this at the same time. Like, I'm struggling here. This is segueing into our stretch. Still a little bit of ab work, but we're getting ready to do some stretching. Yeah, let's do 2 more. Last one. Yeah, flip over into your stomach because this is how you stretch your abs. Just kidding, we're not going to stretch our abs just yet. We're going to do our spine. And then we're going to do that stretch. But it does get us onto our stomach. So to work our spine, we're going to lift right arm, left leg, and then switch. Our spine muscles are constantly engaged because there's always at least 2 limbs off the ground. So keep your chest lifted, keep your chin slightly tucked, head and neck aligned with the spine as we move. And if you want to pulse it, so the movement is smaller and nothing touches the floor, this is more work on your spine, more endurance work because nothing is hitting the ground. But try to coordinate it so that your opposite limbs are always lifting and lowering at the same time. For 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so now we can stretch. You can stretch up to here. You can stretch here. You can do a partial bend. Okay? So we are stretching the front of our body, our abs. If this does not feel comfortable for your lower back, please don't do this. Let me show you an alternate way of stretching your abs, which is basically also leaning back and arching. So lots of ways you can stretch. I'm just going to come back down here. Here's my little stretch, chest lifted. And we did a lot of leg work and we didn't even stretch any of those muscles yet. So we're going to go ahead and stretch our quads. Here I'm pulling my heel, my top heel toward the top butt cheek and pulling my leg straight behind me, not up, and twisting straight behind. Normally when I'm teaching anything on our side, I'm like, don't sink into the shoulder, but it's okay right now, we're just stretching. Good, you can make your way to your back. That same top leg is gonna stretch the glutes, ankle over the other knee. So it's this leg, top leg that we're stretching right now. And then I'm gonna switch. The more you can pull your legs toward your chest, the more you're gonna feel that stretch in the glutes. You can go ahead and face the other side. We're gonna stretch this top leg. I'm just gonna flip all the way around so I can keep facing you guys. But we are stretching the other quadricep. And once again, it is the top leg. So feel free to face the back or you can turn around. Hamstring stretch. We sort of did the inner thigh stretch already when we were doing that straddle while laying on our back. So we're not going to do that, but we are going to stretch the hamstrings. If you find like you don't really feel the hamstrings, like you're not really able to bend enough at the hips, or you feel it more in the back,
which is totally fine. This is also a upper, mid, and lower back stretch. What you can do is you can bend one of the knees, and that usually allows you to reach forward more on one leg, so then you feel here. And if you can get to your toes, you can flex your foot, pull your toes back, and get to the calves. If you don't get into can't reach your toes, just flex your foot back anyways, and you will feel those calves. So now I'm just gonna switch. So I'm gonna bend my front leg now, flex my back foot, and reach only towards my back leg. Or getting deeper into that hamstring stretch. Standing on up for triceps. So here's my right tricep. I'm actually going to step my right foot behind, get into the IT band and into the obliques by leaning towards my left. So you're stretching your right by leaning towards the left. Sometimes I forget right and left. Okay, so this is my right arm. So this is your left arm. You're leaning toward the right. And just let your arms sort of, what I call, boiled spaghetti flop around. And that should get into your shoulders. Go ahead and also add a little bit of rotation here. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you have any questions, hopefully that's a good midday break.